So guys, I'm going to do an unrehearsed video. I honestly don't have time to do videos because I run a business and I have to work on this stuff for a living. And so I haven't rehearsed anything, but I know a lot of you guys are struggling. And so I'm just going to give you some quick pointers on how to diagnose some of these golf carts. So right here, you got a Yamaha golf cart, but this is pretty much built the same as a lot of the others. The same principles are going to apply. And so I'm just going to try to give you some quick rundowns of things to check. We're going to start with the easiest thing, the key switch. And I'm just going to tell you guys, these key switches almost never go bad. I've said that in one of my other videos. They almost never go bad. But in this case, it's just a 2-terminal key switch. You can put a jumper wire between it to see if it's bad. And that's that. So that's a very simple thing to check. The next thing is the forward and reverse switch. Now the forward and reverse switch is a dual circuit switch. So if the golf cart goes in forward but will not go in reverse, then maybe it could be the switch. If it doesn't go at all, it's likely not the switch because it's 2 switches in one, and unlikely both circuits would be bad. But again, very easy to bypass. There's only, I'd have to take this off to see, but there's like, it's really easy to jump the wires on that. So just jump the wires. I think it's from the 2 on the outside to the 1 in the middle, or the 1 in the middle to the 2 on the outside. You'll be able to tell when you take it loose. It'll be a black, orange, and green. I'm saying all this off the top of my head, but that's a really easy one to even if you wasn't sure it was bad, you can order that for like $13 on Amazon or eBay. It's a very inexpensive part. You can replace that. Again, those rarely go bad, but I have seen if you rinse these off, then this can get water in it and it can temporarily cause some problems. And so now the foot pedal will not, the brake pedal will not cause it not to drive for the most part. I can't think of very many carts where the brake pedal plays a role in keeping it from driving. The second thing that can keep it from driving is the foot pedal, and it's actually a common thing. Now on this one right here, and most golf carts have what they call a high pedal disable function. And so what does that mean? It basically just means that if the key is off and you have your foot resting on the accelerator pedal, and if you turn the key on, the cart doesn't go. It doesn't matter how much I press the pedal, it just doesn't go until I let entirely off the pedal, and then it will travel. So I've actually seen, and this is a Yamaha golf cart, I've actually seen a pebble or a rock just barely keeping this pedal depressed, and so the pedal would not rebound to its original position, and that disables the computer from driving. And so even when you come and press the pedal, it would never drive because it was never rebounding all the way back to the off position. And so there is in order to test that, just come over here and press this pedal and listen really carefully. Most of the time you can hear a micro switch click. This particular one doesn't use a micro switch, it uses a push style switch. If you hear the micro switch click, then you probably don't have a high pedal disabled going on. You have to take the floorboard up on an EasyGo. This is not an EasyGo. I don't think I have an EasyGo here. On the EasyGo RXVs, there's some bolts here, and you would pull this matting up, and same with the DS carts. And so you can access the foot pedal control in there. And so there's a variety of different foot pedal controls for these golf carts. EasyGo uses one that has what they call an inductive sensor on it, and so what you will see is it's really just a coil of wire with a with like a metal, it's just a metal core that travels through inductive wires. So it's called an IDS. If you looked it up on anywhere, it'd be the IDS pedal. And so when that metal travels through that foot pedal, then it just creates some induction, and it's a very small basically what happens is the speed controller sends, I think, about 5 volts through that coil, and as that ferrite piece of metal, as it goes further through the core of that inductor sensor, if I had one I would show it to you, I don't think I got one here, it just kind of modifies how much voltage, and so it can monitor that, and that's how it works. And it's a very reliable system. However, you know what, I really should show you one of those. I'm going to talk about it, right? But I don't think I just can't grab all this stuff to create the video quick enough. But anyway, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's just, you'll see it's like a it's a little piece of metal that just goes through a coil. So anyway, those go bad. You'll see a lot of those. If you just look at the casing, it will be broken. I really should honestly stop this video and go grab one of those, because those actually go bad, particularly if you order them from Amazon, eBay. Those aftermarket ones are just about the only ones you can find now, but a lot of them are bad. So I've seen some of those go bad, and then that micro switch being in the floorboard and potentially exposed to dirt and grime, that micro switch can get stuck open and create a high pedal disable position and condition. And so yes, you can get the cart dead as a result of that. And so the next thing that can cause the cart not to drive, just say you have the cart that's not driving at all, is, believe it or not, the receptacle. So on the RXVs, this is a Yamaha golf cart, but on the RXVs, they have a special plug on them that you can order online. You can get it off Amazon. It's pretty reliable. The aftermarket one is. I'm saying this because I know golf cart parts are kind of hard to get. So the aftermarket parts are hit and miss on golf carts. But that particular E-Z-GO RXV has a special plug on it. I've seen some of those go bad, and that will disable it from driving. Basically, the computer system in the golf cart will assume that you still have the charger connected to it, and it's keeping you from driving the golf cart off while the charger is connected. You know, senile people may forget that it's connected to the charger, and we yank the whole charger out of the wall outlet or out of the plug and just destroy the charger. So this Yamaha golf cart has a similar thing. So right here, this is the negative wire here. This is the main negative wire, and on this main negative wire, you see a smaller wire on there. That wire actually goes to the charger right there. So and then for the positive wire, this is the positive lead right here on the battery. You notice there's nothing on there, but if you follow this positive lead down to the solenoid, if you look way down in there, you can see a red wire. They just connected it to the solenoid. It would be equivalent to connecting it here. They did it down there. I don't think it really makes a difference one way or another. I like to see it connected here because it's always better to go directly to the source, but it's fine there because it's just a charging circuit. And so if this is cut, then it may not drive. Or if that's broken, this one has a high pedal. If you look over here, you see that it has another wire that goes right here, and just check these wires. These wires will fray, they will get destroyed, a rat will chew them, and then you will get a whole sort of conditions. Usually the main symptom, it will not drive. So, and then the next thing that can keep it from operating is the main solenoid, and those do go bad very frequently, particularly the higher amp carts that use the 72 volt solenoid. I would opt for the highest amp solenoid. If you do replace one, don't get the cheapest solenoid. It's very, very important to have gold-plated terminals in that solenoid or silver-plated terminals. You want the highest conductivity in that solenoid because it carries so much amps, and there's so much clamping force between those electrons when you are carrying that many amps. And so you want the fastest, strongest, most heavy-duty solenoid you can possibly get. If you are sourcing this online and you don't know what you're looking at, make sure it's a continuous duty solenoid. I've seen people put non-continuous duty solenoids in there, and then the cart will operate just beautifully for 3 days and then stop. So make sure it's a continuous duty if you're sourcing it from if you're looking at Allied Electronics or something like that and you're just trying to order a solenoid. Some of these solenoids, like in this cart right here, this is a 48 volt system. You'll notice that some of those solenoids down here, my video is not that great, but some of these solenoids down in here are both 36 and 48 volts. Some of them are exclusively 48 or exclusively 36. So just check the voltage, make sure you get the right voltage. You don't want to feed 48 volts to a 36 volt solenoid. It will work beautifully, but it will probably burn up itself in about 3 or 4 weeks. So the next thing that can keep it from working is this switch here. So this switch here is the tow run switch. Obviously, if it's in the tow position, it's not going to drive. Now, this cart here is the Yamaha cart. If you flip this switch into the tow position and then flip it right back to the run position and try to drive, it will not drive. You're gonna have to leave it in the tow position for like 5 minutes and then flip it out of the tow position back into the run position for like 2 minutes, and then it will drive. It's really weird. It's on the golf cart I've ever seen like that. That's what makes these things so difficult to work on, because there's there's so much potentiality for just weird things like that. And it's designed that way because I even ordered another controller and it still does the same thing. But basically the reason it's doing that is because there's a discharge function, there's a memory function within the capacitance of that controller, and you have to wait until those capacitors discharge down. And so that's why it does that. The next thing that can keep it from running is the very most obvious thing, is the batteries. If the batteries are dead, then yeah, it's not going to run. And so I like to see, let's see, I would say 0.2, so 0.2 of a volt per cell. Let me try to explain that for a minute. So these are 4-cell batteries right here. And so optimum voltage on these batteries is going to be like 8.8 volts. Now, I know you're never going to really see that. You're probably going to see probably 8.6. That's like really good voltage. When you start getting right at 8 volts, then the battery is dead. But it's still good. It's just dead. You want to see more than 8 volts. So if you have a 6-volt battery, you want to see probably 6.3 minimum on that battery. And when you start getting below 6.3, the battery is starting to die. So when you're testing this battery, you can use a multimeter, but you really need to connect a load to these batteries in order to test them correctly, because some of these batteries will provide the correct amount of voltage, but then when you try to pull that voltage from the battery, it's not able to supply it in bulk. When you think of voltage and current, think of current as being bulk. It's like the volume that's moving from that battery, and voltage is just how fast you can do it. So some of these batteries can supply 12 volts, but they can't supply it fast enough. And so if you don't have a load tester, and honestly, I tend not to use load testers, but you can still use a load tester style battery tester to test these. That's great if you have one. But if you don't have any of that, you can just take the golf cart itself. Maybe the golf cart is trying to drive, but it's really weak. You can just take the seat off the golf cart here, and you can put a normal multimeter on the battery and just check the voltage of the battery as you drive. Just check each individual one. Maybe find a little hill in your yard and just check each battery as you try to climb that hill and see which battery has the lowest voltage. And whichever battery has the lowest voltage, you may in fact see one of the batteries completely dying. All the other batteries are holding 8 volts. Maybe in this case here, if you were pulling a load, it might drop to like 7.8, 7.9. If it starts dropping below 7.8, 7.9, then your batteries are really dead or they're bad. So, but oftentimes all of the batteries will be holding like 7.9 while you're pulling a load, but then one battery is down to 2 volts or 1 volt. That battery there, since these batteries are connected in what they call series, that one battery that's bad doesn't allow power to transfer to the entire system. And so one bad battery is like one bad chain link. It breaks the cycle of the flow of the electrons and everything dies. So you can have one bad battery. If your batteries are fairly recent, I would say if your batteries are younger than 3 years old, then it's okay to replace just one battery at a time to save money, because these batteries can be pretty expensive unless you have an unlimited budget. If the batteries are already 4, 5, 6 years old, you can replace one battery, but it's better if the batteries are replaced together, because here's why, just in case you're wondering why is it better to replace all of the batteries. So as a battery ages, it begins to resist a charge. So it becomes harder to push electrons into that battery to charge it up. And so if you put one new battery in there with a bunch of old batteries, then all of the charge will go into the new battery, and it will overcharge the new battery, and the old batteries will still be resistant a charge. So that's the primary problem, is how it charges. All the voltage will go to the new battery. In fact, if you even touch the new battery as it's charging, you will notice that it's a little warmer than the other batteries. They're a bit cooler because most of the current is flowing to the newer batteries. Sort of like us old people. As you get older, you become less receptive to learning. Younger people are more receptive to learning. They're like a sponge. They just soak up everything. So kind of think of it that way with the battery. A new battery is like a sponge. When you put it on charge, it just says, come on, give me all the electrons you can give me. And it just takes all the power. It takes all of the electricity. It takes all of the current. And not as much flows to the weaker batteries, and so it will overcharge the new battery and cause the acid and the water to kind of boil out of it much sooner than it will the older batteries. So that's the downside to, and I would put it, I would maybe about the 3-year mark, 2-year mark, and it would depend on the type of battery. I'll only use high quality Crown or Trojan batteries. If you're buying those knockoff Costco batteries and those Duracell and those Walmart Energizer batteries, those batteries, I've seen most of those only last about 4 to 5 years, whereas Trojan and Crown batteries, I have rarely seen them fail before 6, 7, and some of them 8, and I've even seen some of them last 9 and 10 years. So I highly recommend going with quality batteries, because yes, they are $30, $40 more per battery than those cheaper batteries, but you're going to get, in terms of years, 1 to 2 to maybe even 3 years more life on those kind of batteries. Now, what else can keep it from driving? Again, what we're describing is you press the pedal and it's just dead. You press the pedal, there's absolutely no action. So all of what I'm saying here, I mean, if anything's wrong on this cart, usually the first symptom is it's completely dead. So the next thing that can cause a problem, let's see if I can get in here and show you, is the motor. Now the motor, I know, will be an intimidating thing for most of you guys. You're going to be like, I never took motor classes. I don't know anything about a DC or even an AC motor in the E-Z-GO RXVs. I'm not going to cover the AC motors in the RXVs because they almost never go bad. There is a component in the RXVs. It's like a speed controller magnetic unit in the RXVs that can go bad. I've seen that go bad, and that will make it appear as though the motor is bad. It's actually quite common. So that's literally the only thing in an RXV concerning the motor that will typically go bad. I've been working on them for about 15 years, never seen a single bad motor in an RXV other than that particular component, and I'll maybe discuss that in another video. This particular motor, this is just a straight DC series motor. Some of them are shunt wound, some of them are series wound. So on this particular one, I think it's a shunt wound motor, but the way you test this motor here, and don't sue me if you do this wrong, but it says A1, it says A2, it says F1, it says F2. The way you can test this motor here is up here at A1, you can get a jumper wire, and the jumper wire needs to be a substantial gauge. I would say 6 gauge minimum. Take a jumper wire, go from A1 to F1. Now you want to take all of these off, and when you take them off, as you can see, these wires can be quite rusty. It has a jam nut on the back. If you try to take the foreground nut off, the background nut may start spinning as well, and you can break that whole stud out of your motor, and now you got to pull the whole motor out. So make sure you hold the background stud. It's a 1/2 inch in this particular case. Spray it down with WD-40 or PB Blaster or some other type of lubricant. Sometimes it's even helpful to get a wire brush or on a little Dremel and just spin and clean these threads up really well, because they can be really rusty, and you do not want to break those studs off in the motor. So again, you want to remove all of these and just keep it with where you remove them. The 2 smaller gauge wires will always be the field wires, which is what F stands for, F1 and F2. These are just field wires. And honestly, if you mix these 2 up, the F1 and F2, when you put them back, it's not going to cause a problem. The only thing it's going to do is going to cause the motor to run backwards. So when you have it in forward, the golf cart's going to go in reverse. That's the only thing that will happen if you accidentally switch those 2 wires. So, but anyway, in order to test this, go from the A1 to the F1. Just get a 6 gauge wire, run it from here to there, and then you want to just get a jumper box and jack the golf cart up on so that the rear wheels are off the ground, and then connect your jumper box to the A2 terminal and the F2 terminal. And the motor should just spin real slow. It should cause the engine to spin. Polarity is not a concern. Which, depending on the polarity, it will run either forward or reverse. And so that's the easiest way to test that motor, is just connect 12 volts to it. But again, you have to run a jumper wire from the A1 to the F1 wire, or you can vice versa. You can go from A2 to F2 with a jumper wire and then connect your jumper box to A1 and F1. If the motor runs, the motor is good. That's not the problem. Now, I think I have covered everything that can keep it from running, except the primary thing that can keep it from running, and that's the speed controller itself. This speed controller here is a very unique speed controller. E-Z-Go and Club Car do not use this. This is a Yamaha exclusive controller. And it just doesn't go bad. That is like a bulletproof controller. You'll almost never see one of those go bad. If you do have to replace one of those, it's like an $800 controller. If you find it cheaper, you let me know. In this particular case, you can get it for like $500, but they require that you send your old one in as a core, and if you don't, it's like $800. So it's a very expensive controller, and I think that is because it's just simply doesn't go bad. There's not a huge market for that particular controller, but it is on the market. It's just not widely available. It's not the one you will find ubiquitously. So but it can go bad, and so you're like, okay, so how do I know before I shell out $4 or $5 or $6 or $7 or $800 on a speed controller? How do I know for sure it's bad? Now, there's no way to know 100% of the times. There's going to be sometimes you have done all the testing you can possibly do, and you're going to think that you have done all the testing you can possibly do, and you're going to think that speed controller is bad, and the speed controller is not bad. In fact, I just had that happen myself. Some pointers. How do you know the speed controller is best? First off, if you turn the key on, I'm sorry, I'm out here in Georgia. Mosquitoes are ubiquitous. They are flying around me, and I told you guys I was doing this extemporaneously without being rehearsed. I didn't even think about what I was going to say. But anyway, going back to the speed controller, I'll give you some ways to know, man, these mosquitoes are coming after me. Here's some ways to know that your speed controller is bad. If you turn the key on, and as soon as you turn the key on, you hear a click, the speed controller most likely is not bad. If you turn the key on and you press the pedal and you hear like a hissing noise, it goes like, ee, ee. If you hear that, the speed controller is most likely not bad. If you hear any kind of clicking when you turn the key on or if you press the pedal, the speed controller most likely is not bad. If you take the golf cart and you try to roll it, just turn the key on. And if you try to roll the golf cart, if you hear it hissing again, going, that's like a regenerative braking that's built into most golf carts. If you try to roll them when the tow run switch is in the run position and the key is on, then it will start trying to resist. This is in case the golf cart is being used on a hilly golf course, and maybe you got off the golf cart and left it unattended. It will not roll full speed down the hill. It will roll down the hill, but it will be rolling slowly because there will be some regenerative resistive style braking going on with the controller, just trying to keep the golf cart from rolling full speed down the hill. If you hear that, that means that the brain is well and alive in your golf cart, and you do not need a speed controller for the most part. Symptoms of a bad speed controller is it will be entirely dead. You will never hear a click. You'll never hear a buzz. Nothing does anything. And then you've replaced the solenoid. I would start, if you want to talk about things to check first, I would start with the solenoid first. Replace it first. I would say that's probably the most problematic thing. Then the next thing is the foot pedal control. I would start there because the foot pedal control is a mechanical moving object. Dirt, grime, slime, water, everything gets inside that foot pedal control. It's very common that there's a potential problem there. And so if you've eliminated the solenoid and then you have eliminated any issues going on with the inductive sensor or whatever kind of foot pedal you have, I think I call that IDS, I meant to say ITS. If you've eliminated any problems there and it still doesn't go, then I would, obviously you want to check the batteries first. I probably should have said that first, but I'm assuming you know the batteries are good. If your batteries are coming up on 10 years and your golf cart sat for like 6 months and you come out there and won't drive, please don't start pulling your foot pedal out. Like, your batteries are bad. Your batteries will go bad just sitting. So you don't want your batteries to sit. But yeah, make sure you have the proper voltage on your battery. If they're 12-volt batteries, 12.6 is a great number to see. If they're 8-volt batteries, 8.4 is a great number to see. If they're 6-volt batteries, 6.3 is a great number to see. Below 6 volts, they're either dead or going bad. So check those. Just check all your wire connections. I want you to literally take your fingers and grab each wire connection and just make sure it's solid. You don't want that. Some of them will look visually okay, and as soon as you touch it, the wire breaks off in your hand, and so corrosion will eat these wires and cause all that. If you leave your, let me turn that. If you leave your golf cart in like a storage shed, or it's in a barn, it's in an open barn style storage situation like this is, chances are rats and rodents will come in here and eat those soy-based wiring harnesses. On the old carts, you don't have that problem nearly as much, because typically the wire was rubber-based, not soy corn husk based wiring, which was an absolute idiotic move that the government mandated for environmental reasons, quote, environmental reasons. And so newer golf carts are more susceptible to rodents chewing the wiring harness. So I've eliminated that. What else did I not cover? The forward and reverse switch. Now I know on some of the Easy Go golf carts, they have a mechanical forward and reverse switch. That thing is hugely problematic. I've seen so many of them melt down. If you go to buggiesunlimited.com, sometimes you will see 2 options for that forward and reverse switch. You would think if I was going to make a video, I would have a picture of that switch readily available, because it's that problematic. As I narrate this video, I'm going to walk and see if I have one. But I just, like I said, I'm doing this extemporaneously with no preparation. This is the only way I can produce content for you guys, because I'm incredibly busy. But anyway, that forward and reverse selector is notorious for melting down, and it can be hard to tell that it has melted down. It just a corner of it will melt. I'm trying to see if I have one thrown over here in one of these boxes. Don't have one. Another thing, and I actually forgot to mention this, on the club car golf carts, there's what they call an OBD. It's the onboard computer. Let me show you this. So this is an OBD. And I'm going to tell you something. This is absolutely insane. Club Car makes so many of these. I can think of maybe at least 6 of them. And they all look very similar. So here's one. Here's another one, but this one is slightly different than that one. And then here's a third one, but this one is different than all 3 of these. I think there's a 4th one. These are notorious for going bad, and these can keep the golf cart from running. They can also keep the golf cart from charging the battery. So if you plug your golf cart in and it doesn't come on charge, and it's a club car, look up underneath there. You may see one of these. This is called the OBD computer. It's the onboard computer, and it directs the main computer when to charge the battery and how long to charge the battery. It will also disable the golf cart from moving as you charge the battery. So these are the onboard computers. They're made typically by Lester. They range anywhere from like $130 to all the way up to $280. So I have a whole box full of those, and these are not all the ones I've replaced. These are just the ones I've replaced in the last couple of years, maybe. I'm sorry, I have a labyrinth of wires here. It's a real mess, guys. These are all like wire harnesses that I've pulled out that were bad. Like just a handful of them that I managed to save. I saved some of these wire harnesses because sometimes I cut the plugs off. Maybe a customer will bring a wiring harness in and rats have like chewed all of this up. If I have the identical wiring harness, then sometimes I can cut these and splice a whole nother plug, because finding this plug is not always easy. So anyway, that's why I say just what looks like garbage, honestly, but it's a huge headache destroyer when you happen to have the right harness for the customer or have the right plug. It's a headache when you don't have it, when you do have it, it's one of the best days in your life when you realize among this labyrinth of wires, there's a solution to somebody's problem. So anyway, I was looking for a forward and reverse selector. That's what I was originally talking about. I don't have one in here. Unbelievable. I actually do have one. I don't know what I did with all of those. But those are notorious for going bad. One of you guys comment in a video, post a picture of one of those. You guys know what I'm talking about. The ones of you who have those type of golf carts has that big hard to move mechanical selector for forward and reverse on the easy go. You know what I'm talking about. The rest of us just have a toggle switch, and the toggle switches are way more reliable. If you can, there's an upgrade kit available. If you can do that, then upgrade. Please upgrade at all costs. It's so worth it. That's all I'm going to do, guys. I was trying to just give you some quick pointers. They can be extremely difficult to diagnose. On this Arctic Cat, as you see, I jumped from golf carts to four-wheelers to lawnmowers to tractors to almost everything, guys, even to computers. So let me show you this. We're actually working on a 753 here. This is a major headache. So I'm going to show you something else we're working on. We're working on this Branson BL100S. The front hub broke off. So as you can see, my experience is quite varied, but that's all I have time for. I'm extremely tired and exhausted, and I'm going home. I hope this video can help some of you guys. I had someone call me just randomly and was like, hey, can you please help me with my golf cart? And I'm like, guys, I get paid to do this. I cannot sit on the phone with you for a whole hour and try to diagnose an electrical problem. It's hard for me to diagnose an electrical problem when it's right in front of me. Trying to direct someone who thinks they know a little bit about mechanical and electrical things, trying to direct you over the phone. I'm sorry, we don't have telemechanics yet. We have telehealth, where a doctor can try to ask you questions and diagnose a health disorder over the phone. But telemedicine may work, telemechanics doesn't. Telediagnostics for electrical is just an absolute needle in the haystack style diagnostics. I could say a lot of different things. Almost none of it will be applicable to your specific problem. So I was rather curt with him. I was rather reticent. I told him, hey, based on what you described, you have a wiring issue. It's not much I can do over the phone. I have to put 2 retinas on your equipment. I have to actually look at it. And even then, it's likely to be an uphill battle. So electrical is one of the hardest things in the world to diagnose. It can be a very major challenge. And as I hire technicians, in fact, I just hired a new technician to work for me. He can do a lot of things. He cannot do electrical diagnostics, not even to the most rudimentary level. So I've had maybe 20 techs. None of them were very great at electrical diagnostics. There's a multitude of other shops in my vicinity, and I've seen electrical diagnostics go sideways so many times. I'm going to give you one hint when it comes to electrical diagnostics. If you can just keep this in mind, just do this one thing. Never, ever, not even once ever, never cut wires. Never go into the wiring harness and start cutting wires that you don't know what they do. You're just cutting wires. I see people do this all the time. Cut. Let me just cut this wire. Let me just run this wire somewhere else. Why do they have this on? Let me just cut this. Do not cut wires. Instead, try to find where that wire leads to and try to jump it based on where it leads to. Do not cut the wire in the harness. Just don't do that. Don't do that. If for some reason you have to, I can't barely think of a reason why you have to, at least use the same color wire. Never have a wire running that's red and then turns black. Don't do it. Just don't do it. I promise you, you're ruining your life. you're ruining your equipment. You're ruining it for any future mechanic who's going to look at that. Just don't cut the wires. That's like writing source code and then just deleting a line. If you are a computer programmer, you know what I'm talking about. If somebody pulled up your C++ source code and they're like, what does this line here do? I have no idea why this line is in this code. Let me just backspace it and delete it. That's an idiot move, just doing that. And particularly if you don't save a copy of what the original code was. Because I promise you, there was a reason why somebody put that source code there. So anyway, people do that with wiring. It's the most novice thing to do, is to cut wires, because you don't understand the electrical circuitry. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you on your next. Please hit subscribe. I struggle to make content weekly, much less monthly, much less weekly. I want to start producing more content for you guys. I want to help you guys, but I'm telling you, my yard is overflowing with equipment. Mosquitoes are everywhere, and I can barely get anything done. I'm so behind, but I appreciate you watching. If you hit subscribe, it will incentivize me to make more. Thank you so much.